how many actually? How many get through? You know.
Well, a small percentage. I mean, we were lucky a couple of seasons ago. I think we were under eights, and we got invited to play a friendly against Wolverhampton Wanderers Academy under eights, and they are phenomenal footballers. This is before. I mean, we were doing throw-ins at the time, so they were doing kick-ins, which looked really strange. But then, obviously, the FA brought that into junior football now, so we don't do throw-ins. We kick-ins now, so the ball's rolling constantly. But the way the coaches coached. They were very quiet, but they were very stern with what they were saying. They're developing, but they're still young kids to me, And they were very good, but were they enjoying it, or were they chasing the dream of becoming a professional footballer one day? I don't know, but
And there's so many other factors. I remember a referee. Sorry, I have referee games. But I was. We had a young referee. And we all want to support referees, right? But it was getting to the point in this particular game that he's making a little bit of a hash of it. And we were, me and the other coach, we didn't know each other, but we were like, the boys were getting a little bit angsty, right? And we're like talking to each other, going, "Oh God, that's not great, is it?" And we're laughing a bit to the point where something happened, and there was a bit of a fracas on the pitch, and I just went over to the other coach and said, "Look, I think we need to talk to the referee now. Say, let's stop the game, and we'll talk to our teams individually, and just go, can we just rein it in, boys? It's a game of football." And there was no girls in that at that point, and that's what we did, and we didn't make the referee look bad, and. At the time, the chairman of the league, who I'd never met before, he was watching some of the games, and he saw what happened. And I'm quite, in my work, I have to intervene and do things. And he came over and he said, "I saw what you and the other coach did there." And he said, "That was amazing." He said, "Because you helped reset the referee, but you also stopped them fighting on the pitch." Because, it's like when hormones are coming in.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I said to my lot, I said, "Look, I don't care what's going on. You're representing me. You represent your families. Right? You're just not doing it. Please don't.
Yeah.
Right? It's a game of football. If you don't want to play football, we'll go home now."
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many dynamics, isn't there? Of course
there is. And these are the parts I don't think, when I go back to, am I qualified, or are we qualified as individuals, as humans, to run these football teams? Because they don't sell that. What I see is, I see Match of the Day, I see Pep Guardiola on the telly, I see the tactics board that he used, and I think I've got that. When the reality of it is, there's so much more to it than just football. There's so much more to it. It's unreal.
And do you know what? The FA way, shall we say? And I'm a big England fan. I've travelled to Moscow and watched the semi-final, and I went to Berlin and watched the final, Euro final with my kid, with my lad, and took my daughter to a game. But that was all because of Moscow, and I'd made promises I shouldn't have kept to my kids. But hey, the way the FA play football, right, or want you to play football, right, is beautiful. Right, but there are multiple ways of playing football, as we all know, and there's also a direct way. And I remember at under nines that I got my team quite well drilled to play in certain ways, and we got knocked out of a senior cup. And we went into the next cup down. Which was fine. But I got them to change their way. So, for example, a defensive corner, I knew my goalkeeper had a huge kick on him. Huge, massive. And I also knew my lad, as I've said, was quite small. So I put him up talking to the big defenders and just got them to talk to them, distract them and stuff like that. They're looking at him, his size, and going, he's not going to cause us a problem. But you know what happens. And we just set them up to play. And by a little bit of luck, we got into a final. Right? And now this added another bit of pressure related to I think parents don't understand what coaches were doing. It was a nightmare situation.
Okay.
So I had a business trip, right, and knew the final was on the weekend, and on the
Okay.
Wednesday was training. I had to go to, well, not had to. I went to Scandinavia for business,
Okay.
right, and I had to explain to my work that I was going to be back at 2 o'clock at Heathrow Airport. Right, it was non-negotiable on the Wednesday because I needed to get to training.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're not going to miss training the night the week before the
That's
final,
when the magic
right?
happens. Yeah.
And it's when they exactly. So it's like I don't think a lot of parents see that stuff. The other side of it, I sent some messaging to parents 'cause I was really worried that what happens on the low if they
Mm.
lose, because
Yeah.
you want them to enjoy football, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I got the parents together, didn't tell the team. They
Hmm.
thought they had a normal training session, and then we put them in a sort of like a sports hall and did a
Okay.
presentation to them, right? And it was all centered around um, Ronaldo making mistakes,
Yes.
Messi making mistakes because they are on YouTube,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And the whole thing was about whatever happens at the weekend, yeah, as parents, you're amazing and we love you,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? So don't worry. It actually ended up winning the cup, but I don't know about you if you've been in that situation that day of the final because you so want them to do well,
Yeah. Of course
right?
you do.
But then the other side of it, there was the other team. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to bring loads of bags of sweets with me,
Hmm.
yeah, so that if we win, we'll give them all the sweets.
Yeah.
And it. I think a lot of coaches constantly worry and try and balance stuff. And then the weirdest thing that happened after the game, which will tell you everything about football, a scout from a League Two football team came up to me, and we were just having, bottles of fruit shoot and chilling
Yeah.
out, as family and friends, with the whole squad. And this guy comes over and goes, "Oh, I didn't watch your final. Apparently, you won it." Like, yeah. He goes, "Where's your club based?" And I said, "Where?" And he goes, "Oh, that's an hour from us. I'm not interested." And
Yeah.
he said, he goes, "I didn't even bother looking at watching the final." And you're like thinking,
Yeah.
you're
Well.
scouting youth footballers and you're
Yeah.
not looking at finals.
Yeah.
It's
It's
bonkers.
crackers. And just going off that, I remember playing a game, and it was just a normal fixture. And I noticed in the corner of my eye there was a Man City scout stand out like a sore thumb. He's got all his Man City kit on. Uh, and he was watching our game, and I thought, well, obviously he's watching the best players that we've got, and quite rightly as well. They're amazing. And I went to him at the end, and I said, shook his hand. I said, "I'm Dan. I'm the manager of the team. Have you seen anything you like?" And he looked at me dead in the eye and went, "No." And just walked off. I was like, wow. Really took me back.
And do you know what? I remember doing my weekend youth training thing,
Mm-hmm.
and this coach was brilliant, by the way. He delivered it, and somebody from the FA came in. Right, we walk. When you're having your tutorial sessions and
Yeah.
you're out doing your game plans and making a mess as a coach and laughing
Yeah.
about it.
Basically. Yeah.
This guy came out of nowhere and turned around didn't introduce himself. I'll never forget this. He just walked in. He just went to the lead coach. He said, "That guy over there hasn't got shin pads on. Why is he here?" Right? And he also said a couple of other things.
Yeah.
Didn't say hello to anybody and walked off. And he's wearing FA kit.
Yeah. So
And
he's
everybody
representing.
looked at him and thought,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh, so, and I'm not having a go at the FA. I'm really not. So, but I think there needs to be a closer connection. And also, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, go for it.
When was the last time, following your course, the FA have come and offered to give you a chat and ask you whether you're getting on all right, whether there's something you need help with, or give you an opportunity to do something?
Good question. The last time I had any interaction other than player recruitment, because with the Staffordshire FA, I've spoken to them so many times. I'm on first name terms with them. With the player recruitment side, I think the only time I've ever had any additional training from the FA would be invited to Clayton Woods, which is the training facilities for Stoke City. And this was a Stoke City thing, they opened up the academy and they showed us how the under-18s train, and they showed us how the under-23s train, and 23s, and how player progression is. But it was not really related to what I was doing. So as a check-in...
And do you know what? That's good to hear, because I can honestly say that I probably did not have any interaction in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I think the thing with the FA, and again, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of bashing the FA at all. You kind of do your course. I did my course in 2009, I think it was, and like I said, it was the one with the weekend and a couple of nights in the week, couple of weekends. Sorry. Things change so often. I mean, you just take. We don't do offsides at the minute, but when we do, there's a different offside rule now than there was when I was growing up. The one I understood was, if an attacker's the wrong side of the defender, the ball's played. But there's so many different segments to it now. And I'm sure if I reached out, if I went to somebody and said, "Can you explain this?" they would. Look at the structure of junior football in the future. So the 3v3 for the under-7.
Yeah.
So we don't have goalkeepers in that. Apparently it's a Dutch, and if anybody's watching, quote me on this or correct me, but it's the Dutch way of playing. That's what the Dutch do. They develop their players by getting the ball. But it throws up so many questions like, well, what happens to goalkeepers in that sense? Because we don't need goalkeepers. So we're going to be short on goalkeepers.
And I find it really interesting because you've already mentioned a couple of things where I've got all the rules have changed since I was a coach, because I'm a little bit out of it now. I'm 3 or 4 years out, right? And then I'm, everything I've just said about following England and stuff, technically we have improved.
Oh, massively.
And I know that they looked at the number of coaches in Germany compared to the number of coaches here when we were not so good. Yeah. And the FA have done an amazing job in terms of, changing us technically, right? Because I think we're technically better, right? And futsal and all those sort of things. Yeah. But I do think that we've almost gone a little bit that, that way. Rather, we need to come back into the middle a bit, to keep a little bit of personality about football, shall we say?
So things like
go direct when you need to.
Playing things like 4-4-2 is not fashionable anymore, whereas for me, that's what I was brought up on. As a Stoke City supporter, the ball was in the air more than it was on the ground, but it was efficient, it worked. It's not an attractive way of playing football anymore. You watch the professionals, I'm sure they do it to Exeter when they do goal kicks. They don't kick the ball up the pitch anymore. They pass it to a defender who passes it back to them, and it's all about keeping the ball.
And it's interesting you say that, because it's a massive weekend for my football club. The whole family are going. There's 8,000 of us going up to Man City tomorrow. So I've got my hat ready. And I've got my 1980 beating Newcastle scarf with me. There you go, that old, right? And we were talking to Pep earlier. Sorry, not talking to Pep earlier. Chancellor of that would be lovely. Yeah. He's turned around and goes, "Yeah, I've watched Exeter against Cardiff City. Always watched the recordings, and Huddersfield Town about 4 or 5 days ago away." And he said, "Oh yeah, they pass the ball around and they play it really, And he was fairly complimentary, because we are a passing possession team. Some would argue we probably need to be able to change it a little bit, but I think all the way down to League Two now, there are a lot of teams that are, like you say, they'll just pass it out from the centre back. Yeah.
It's great if you can do it. It's brilliant if you have the players that can do it. I mean, again, you're talking to a Stoke City supporter who sort of I don't know. I just don't understand the mentalities. I'm a big fan of Tony Pulis. I think his football, although it wasn't popular,
Tony Pulis.
yeah, was effective. It was.
Well, yeah, I'm quite long in the tooth. Do you remember John Beck at Cambridge, Dion Dublin? Right,
Dublin, yeah,
and I'm not agreeing with this style of play, by the way. But to grow the grass long in the corners, put
yeah,
more sand down,
yeah,
and actually, footballers are very maybe not not. You know what I mean by this? The intelligence of playing football. Sometimes just do some basics really well,
yeah,
right? And Dion Dublin knew where the ball was going to go, and like the defenders were like, you are when you get the ball, you're going to knock it into that area, and everybody knew what was going to happen, and
yeah,
they also had long throws.
yeah.
The long throws come back now, isn't it?
Of course it has. I
Yeah.
mean, we made we got promoted on the long throw to the Premier League, So I still think there's a place for that style of football, but it's not fashionable. It's not I'm pretty confident it's not the FA way anymore if we're going to compete in on the world stage.
I think for England to go that step further forward since '66, we've got to get cuter about that and actually mix it up a little bit. And
Possibly.
I think when that time comes, that's when the win. I mean, I've seen England play Croatia in Moscow, and Modric was the best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
Absolute joy to watch. Ran the game, and it was an absolute privilege to see what he did.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, if you love the game, you can't not appreciate that.
No, you can
Yeah.
see an artist
So
almost at work, aren't you? There, so
yeah, absolutely. And
yeah,
and like for a youth football coach, if the team's not winning, actually, it's not the end of the world.
yeah,
Don't fret. Please don't fret for like
yeah,
weeks on end. And if the parents aren't liking it, then ask them to help
yeah.
or give some ideas to change it. Yeah.
I think that's sound advice.
Yes.
That is. I think that's brilliant. And we're just sort of coming up to the end of our sort of time. But I just wanted to ask one little question, if that's okay. Based on your experience, based on your coaching knowledge, is there anything that you would have perhaps changed in your approach to coaching, or is there anything that you would like to have you'd think would like to have been changed for you in the sense of your coaching style? Was that obviously it was correct at the time, but thinking back, did it work out? Would you like more support from either parents, or you've mentioned the FA yourself and the support from there? Is there anything in particular that would have helped you to stay in the game or a little bit longer?
I think definitely, from a mental health perspective, I think there was a lot of coaches out there that may be struggling a little bit. I know I did.
Yeah.
At times it consumed me, and trying to work out, like I say, work with, trying to get things done, and taking things to heart, depending on the coach. I think that's a challenge. And I actually think, a bit of pastoral coaching network of, FA people to go, all right, how are you doing? How's the team getting on? Let's have a coffee.
Yeah.
Let's just, and that person said, I've got this real problem. I don't know how to deal with it. Right. Because there's friends groups, there's families, all that stuff.
Yeah.
How do you, and I've seen people get upset and leave, right? Because they thought that it was a different way. I'm certainly not a good coach. I thought I was a horrific coach personally in my head, right? Probably other people said I was quite a good coach. So the fact that I didn't think I was a good coach, probably I was okay. You know what I'm trying to say? So I think the pastoral care from the FA would help.
Yeah, super. And I think you've just touched on something there that's probably quite common with most coaches and the coaches watching, that they perhaps never feel as if they're good enough. We're volunteers at the end of the day, and majority of us fall into it like myself and yourself have done. I asked the question, are we qualified? Maybe everybody's got that little thought that they're perhaps not as good as perhaps the coach next door kind of thing. You see the little tippy-tappy football. How have they got, and I've got this motley crew over here. How's that happened? I do genuinely think that's the case. I think there's an argument that every coach comes away. There's times when I've come home and I've said to my wife, I've said after training, I said that was really difficult. As I'm cracking a can of lager open or something, and you're thinking, wow, you've spent an hour training and you're moaning and having a beer because of it, and it's difficult, I think.
And do you know what? I miss it to a point.
Yeah.
I've got a great connection with my family through it. But I do miss it. I do miss the time with some, the squad, and I think it's also some of the parents as well, because I've gained some really good friends out of it.
Yeah.
And it's like your sister team where I'm corporate sponsor for their away shirt. I did that because I believe in giving back, but my friend was, as you know, an accidental coach, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll sponsor your team.
Yeah.
Because I know what that hassle is.
Yeah.
So I just don't take it to heart. Life's too short.
Absolutely. And just on that note, with the sister team as well, as we call it, they're good people. They're very, very good people. So you've invested in the right place, I think. Superb. I am going to call it there, I think. What I would like to say to you, though, is thank you very much, Al. You've been an absolute gem. Honestly, I've learned a little bit from you today. And probably more importantly for you, best of luck tomorrow against Man City. They're not that scary, I promise you. They're not that bad. You ready?
You know what I'm saying? Have they ever played Brazil? That's all I'm going to say.
There you go. Super. Thank you very much, my friend. Look after yourself, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You'll be brilliant. You will be.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.